up in my own bed, no pounding in my head, and no dark circles beneath my eyes. I love not worrying, and nothing is blurry, and I've got no stamps on the back of my hand. I pick up my phone and I've got no text that I don't understand. I love not drinking, I love not thinking about how I'm gonna get home, or what I said, or if this is my bed. I love not drinking, I love not thinking. Did I just say that out loud? Or where am I right now? My kids would be so proud. Sarcastically.
There he is. Perfect.
Man, Pro Tools and Zoom do not get along.
Isn't that interesting, Eric? You know, you build, one of the most innovative, creative agencies, Deutsche, and, Activision and all these great things, but Zoom, it gets you.
Man, God, that sounds about right. All I can tell you is a lot of my meetings start this way, and I think it has to do with these, all these Pro Tools systems that my computer's running through, but I apologize.
Oh, nothing to apologize for. Eric Hirshberg, of course. Great. To describe you, obviously, I'm a great musician, so let's start there, but so much more than that, Eric. And by the way, beautiful compound. Where are you coming to us from? Is it like your studio?
Thank you. This is my basement music studio in my home in Santa Monica, California.
Mm-hmm.
And when we built this house, putting this underground seemed like a good idea for soundproofing purposes. And then
sure.
When COVID hit and everyone started working from home, and I realized I was going to be sitting all day, every day, most days in a room with no windows, it seemed like less of a good idea. But, so that's where I'm coming from. How about you?
Love it. Nashville, Tennessee, Eric.
Love it.
So, Eric, let's start with this. I mean, we've been listening to I Love Not Drinking a bunch and all discography. You're quite the songwriter, Eric. I mean, where did you learn to write? Because it's, people do it here in Music Row all the time. It's like a habit.
Yeah.
How did you get the reps in? Because you're great.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I don't know that I have an answer other than that I've just always done it. When I was a kid, our parents, I had a very creative dad. He was a car designer and also a classically trained clarinetist, quite a good musician. My parents made us pick a classical instrument. I picked violin. I played it for 10 years. I was pretty good at that. Interesting story. I had dyslexia and it was really hard for me to read music. And I used to go into my dad's prolific classical music record collection and find the piece that I was supposed to be using and learn it by ear. Mm. And I would, I got outed when I didn't turn the page at the right time, I guess. And my teacher was looking at me like, what are you looking at right now? What music are you reading? And, I thought I was in trouble, but then that's how it came out that I had dyslexia and I was having a hard time with the reading the notes. But I gave that up at about 14 and I took up first the bass guitar. Mm. And then I almost instantly after picking up a bass guitar, I wrote my first song when I was 14 years. And it just for me, the act of playing is the act of writing. I'm just always wandering around the instrument, whatever instrument I'm playing, and finding things that stick in my brain and finding things that I hum afterwards. And that's sort of the beginning of my process. So, look, like a lot of people, I started a band, first one with my brother. He was a piano player. He's also a writer. He's a novelist. So we had a very creative family, and I caught the bug early in life. And despite the fact that I've had this whole other life in business, as a creative business leader,
sure.
I've never stopped writing songs. I had bands in high school and college and probably kept my band going longer than I should have, well into my late 20s, playing clubs around LA and, trying to lead a double life, as Rick Ocasek said. But eventually this whole other career took over, but the writing never stopped. And this room used to be a closet, it used to be a keyboard and an amp and a guitar hanging in a closet and a microphone or two. and then it graduated to a walk-in closet in our next apartment, and then a landing on the stairs, and then a guest bedroom with a fold-out couch, and finally there's a proper room dedicated to it. But the songs just kept piling up, and so when I was at Activision and I was like an officer of a public company, I wasn't comfortable putting things out. When you've got an earnings call every 12 weeks, no one wants to hear your love songs, but they kept piling up, and when I stepped down, the first thing I wanted to do was dedicate my time to this, put out an album, and see where it took me.
Sure. Interesting. So, yeah. Okay. So a bunch to unpack there. First of all, Eric, I mean, your career in Activision, by the way, is, for my audience that doesn't know, you had a hand in some of the greatest hits. I mean, Call of Duty and so on and so forth. I mean, your career is studied in like business schools. Let's put that. Let's just say that. But I mean this, Eric, and I'm not tooting your horn here, but like the fact that you were able to also like do all these parallel successful ventures, creatively fulfilling and all that, I'm always impressed with high achievers, how you divide your time and you're able to kind of like, we all have the same 24 hours, but you're able to do this incredible corporate career, and also you have your creative muse in full swing. And, what's the secret there, Eric? Because, what's the balance there? Like, how do you do it?
Balance is not one of the secrets. I don't know if this is good advice or not, but I say it a lot. I don't believe in work-life balance the way most people refer to that. I believe in work-life balance by the end of your life. And I think that it's a little bit, I've never been in balance in a day, or in a week or in a month or in a year. When you're doing things that you're passionate about, they tend to take over a lot of your life. And right. Sometimes you have to commit to that imbalance in order to get anything great done. That's what I've found. And so there have been times in my life when I worked, lots of times in my life when I worked 80-hour weeks or 70-hour weeks or 60-hour weeks, and years when I spent 50 to 100 nights in a hotel room, and I'd racked up 7.5 million miles on one airline during my career. That's a real number. I don't know how far back in my discography you went, but on my first album, there's a song called Can't Find the Ocean, which is all about, all about that that imbalance, and if you know that song, that one of the lines is, this is the chorus line is, this is taking a year off of my life. I can feel it. And so, there's negativity to that. There's a cost to that. Sure. I've struggled with insomnia a lot in my life. I'm working on my sleep right now. I'm like everyone else, watching Andrew Huberman, trying to get the the right cocktail right, and but I think I had maybe a 25th hour compared to most people, because I did a lot of my creative stuff late at night, and so I would come home from a long day at work, and I'd spend time with my wife or my kids if we had them at that time. And then she would go to sleep, and I would go into, the equivalent of this room, whatever room that was in my life. And that's how I would unwind. I would play my guitar, I would sing, I would, record. And so lots of times I didn't get to bed till 2 a.m, but I had a little beginning of a song when I woke up in the morning. It was worth it. And, so I feel like my goal is when I'm on my deathbed, I'll look back and say I had work-life balance, but I've never had work-life balance in the moment. Yeah.
I mean, that makes total sense, Eric. I will say this. I mean, my audio audience will know it, my video will, but you look fantastic. I mean, you look like 33, 34 years old. And I don't know how old you are. So and a lot of this is, you don't drink, you haven't drank in a while, but also no sugar.
That's true.
I think that's interesting. Because, the benefits of no alcohol in Nashville, it's like cool to not drink now. But the no sugar thing, Eric, man, like, is that kind of like a revolutionary thing for your energy, for your health, for everything?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not nearly as disciplined on the no sugar idea as I am on the no alcohol idea. Alcohol, I really did give up and don't miss. And, I have no problem passing when, the waiter comes around and asks if you're having more.
And it wasn't because you you had like a rock bottom situation or anything. You just kind
of... No. And yeah, thank you for asking that, because, there's two things about that. One is, when I wrote this song, I actually was I played it for a friend or two of mine who actually are addicts and are in the program. And my sensitivity was, I don't want to cloak myself in anyone else's trauma. I don't have that trauma. Yeah, I don't have that. And what I realized when I wrote that song is there's so many songs about drinking and about addiction. They're mostly about bottoming out or about, the addiction part. And as you just said, it's cool to not drink in Nashville now. Like, there's so many people who choose to not drink now as a positive, kind of proactive lifestyle choice. And there's no songs for them. There's no songs for us. There's lots of drinking songs that are celebratory. And then there's lots of songs that are about the dark, the dark corners of addiction and recovery.
Sure.
Just about the sort of celebration of it. So I wanted there to be a song about that, but I feel like I'm not answering your question about sugar. I try to be disciplined about sugar. I have this phrase that I use called follow your energy. And it's just sort of being very self-aware. If you've ever I've learned this from having insomnia. If you've ever, tried to get a handle on your sleep patterns, they encourage you to write things down and see, what'd you do last night? Did you have good night's sleep? Did you have what was different? What did you eat differently? When did you stop eating? What time did you go to bed? Was there anything different in your diet or your habits that led to a better or worse night's sleep? So when you start paying attention to those patterns, I just noticed every time I ate sugar, same thing with alcohol, I'd get a headache. I'd go to bed with a headache. I'd feel drowsy. I'd wake up with bags under my eyes. So I just feel like we're going to look back one day on the fact that we grew up in a time when, the marijuana and the mushrooms were illegal and people went to prison, and yet there was alcohol and sugar in every pantry. We're going to look back. People are going to be like, wait, you did what? Sugar is one of those poisons that is hiding in plain sight. I think it's really the devil.
Absolutely. Well said, Eric. And especially with fruits. Yeah, I find that difficult because, some are obvious, whatever, pop, sodas, whatever. But when it comes to fruits and sugar, that's
Well, to be clear, I eat a lot of fruit. When I say give up sugar, I meant natural. I mean, refined.
Natural. Right.
Yeah.
Fair, Eric. Eric, now that you're kind of stepping more as a musician, basically, you really this is what you're doing. What have you noticed, as a creative advertising executive, or kind of have you noticed that it's difficult for an artist, more difficult than you thought, maybe to be viral on TikTok or have a song on a commercial? What's been your experience kind of being now on the dark side, if you will?
It's a very difficult, as a business, someone else asked me a similar question, but they worded it about the music industry. They said, what's it like working in the music industry? And I paused and I felt like, I don't think there is a music industry. That's like saying there's a poetry industry. I feel like there's music and, there is an industry. If you think about the music industry right now, it's around a few huge artists. And then it's around these giant catalogs, which are almost like investment portfolios. The reason the streaming stuff ended up to be a good thing for the giant labels is because they have this treasure trove of the world's, music. But I feel like on one hand, the sort of democratization is great because someone like me who's doing it on his own, can sit in his basement, create some songs. If he thinks they're ready, he can put them out and get them heard. On the other hand, there used to be a very, robust system of discovery of music that broke. It's now you're sort of trying to trick an algorithm into, supporting it. And that algorithm isn't about music discovery. That algorithm is about attention. It's about unignorability. And so, I've found that, and I try not to, some of my observations I think would be bad for me as an artist, but I've noticed that when I have something I've never had anything go really viral, but, I've had, my song, I Want America Back, which was, a political song that was released 3 months before the last presidential election, that got up over 1 million views on YouTube. And I think that had as much to do with the topic and the timing and the visual that I came up with in the video as it did with the song. I'm, just being honest. I think the song was good. I think, if it was bad, people might have hit the skip button. But I think the timing of it and the topicality of it was really helpful. I don't want to think that way when I'm writing the next song. I don't want to, I have the same observation about I Love Not Drinking. I've written a lot of songs. I Love Not Drinking, which I released in time with Dry January. Suddenly I'm, song of the day on KCRW here in LA, and I'm getting asked to play it on the local news. And I think that had as much to do with the fact that there's a thing in culture called Dry January and that people need content to talk about. And so I sort of feel like you can poison your artistic process by having your marketing brain turned on too much, because I feel like that's not where great art comes from. So I actually observe it. I think about it after the work is done. What's the best way to present this? What's the cleverest way to put this out in the world in a way that might get attention? But I try not to think too much about it because you can drive yourself nuts. And at the end of the day, I make work that I'm happy with, and it doesn't all get put out. When I think, okay, I think there's something there, I put it out, and you do your best to market it well, but you also have to not drive yourself crazy as an artist thinking about that stuff too much.
Absolutely.
I also think that what used to be multiple people's jobs is all now the artist's job. There used to be, the artist's job used to be to write and record and perform.
Yeah.
And now it's that plus
agent, creative. Yeah.
Video editor, social media manager, data scientist. So, that stuff is actually not joyful for me at all.
Right.
I tolerate, kind of like sugar and alcohol. Before I put out my first album, if you scroll back far enough in my social media feed, you'll see that I had never posted on Instagram before I put out an album. I hadn't posted on social media in 3 or 4 years because it's toxic for me.
Yeah.
It's toxic for a lot of people, but my life is better without that in it. And to put out music, you got to have that in it. And so, that part is it's not fun. But, I also consider it an incredible gift to have the freedom and the ability to be able to follow this passion. So it's like everything in life, it's a balance.
Are you going to take your songs on the road, Eric?
I am. I'm trying to figure that out right now. I just did a live performance that I could share some video of with you that I'm editing right now, if you're interested.
Absolutely.
It's a kind of a showcase, and it was here in LA at the legendary recording studio, The Village, where Fleetwood Mac recorded Tusk, and Tom Petty recorded Damn the Torpedoes, and Dre recorded Chronic. So you're walking through the halls, and you're just surrounded by.
That's not in Century City, is it?
No, it's in West LA.
In West LA, okay.
And Monica Boulevard. It's kind of hiding in plain sight. It looks like the haunted house at Disneyland. People have driven by it a million times. They don't realize the rock and roll history they're driving past. But
sure.
It had, just the room had great mojo. It was raining outside. It was a really great show. But, that was at least half the room was friends and family. And, probably a third or half the room of people who came in off of, me posting about it on Instagram. But, there's a chicken egg thing where you feel like you got to get enough traction on streaming. And then you go out on the road when you have, when you've built an audience that actually, wants to see it. But I don't have my 10,000 hours playing in front of other humans yet. And, I want to get that.
Oh, and I think you're incredible. You have a great message. You have great energy. Your songs are great. I mean, I think you can be a delight, like a gift that you can give to others, just by like touring a little bit. So anyway.
Well,
Eric,
I appreciate it.
Thanks for you. Go ahead. Absolutely. And I know you got a million things to do. So let me go ahead.
I want to make sure you heard me say thank you. I think we were talking at the same time, but thank you for saying.
Oh, of course.
I hope there are audiences out there who agree with you.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, and if I have you, it's because you're a special being. And let me leave you with this, Eric, because I know you got a busy day ahead. Let's go back to advertising. Super Bowl just ended. I know your advertising brain is always on. That's part of you. What are the what are you seeing? What trends are you seeing? Like what's moving people right now in 2024 with advertising?
So again, kind of like I was saying about the music business, the business that I feel like I was in has changed a lot. And I feel like it used to be a much more of a storytelling business. They were little, 30 or 60 second blockbuster movies. And, you tried to, and I feel like because we have so much more data now and so much more ability, companies have so much more ability to reach people directly, that it's become more of a data science project. And what that shows me is on the Super Bowl, the people who are really telling stories or really making a human connection are fewer and further between. So to me, they stand out even more. Like I thought the Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Ben Affleck and J-Lo and Matt Damon was just so fresh and so funny, and was a clear winner that day. And then the NFL ad done by my good friend Tim Ellis, who was my chief marketing officer when I was at Activision, and is now the chief marketing officer of the NFL, and also my good friend Glenn Cole, who runs the ad agency 72 and Sunny, and their teams. They put together that beautiful spot about the little kid in Africa who dreams of playing in the NFL, and to talk about their sort of global player development program. And that was so emotional, and it was such a zag. You didn't know where it was going, but I noticed a lot of them are much more just sort of informational, and they're not that emotional connection as much anymore. And so I lament that, because I think it has the power to be a really creative medium, and I feel like a lot of companies are not using it that way as much anymore.
Amen. Well, Eric Hirshberg, you've said it all. What a delight to meet you. What a brain, what a human. Thank you so much for your time. Love your music. Great songwriter. And appreciate your time, Eric.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Take care. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here for the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from J-Rod Concert Media.